Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of What If Ash Was Betrayed and Got a Harem. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content, and also go and support the author, link in description. Zion looked at the hand that Ash offered and closed his eyes before accepting it with a smirk. Looks like I'm not ready to lay you flat on your ass, huh Ash? No Zion, you are not, Ash said in a monotone voice before he broke it with a huge grin and spoke with pride to his student. But you were able to hold your own for way longer than before. Besides, we weren't going our hardest, so who knows how that could have ended. With those words, Ash yanked his friend up onto his feet. They both heard a lot of noise and looked to see their Lucarios surrounded by Ash's other excited Pokemon. Ash chuckled at the enthusiasm his family have for one another and a good battle. This though caused Ash's body to stiffen and for him to get lost in thought. Family, that's what he was seeing right now. This was his family, the ones who stood by him in his dreams, the ones that worked alongside him every step towards his accomplishments and failures. Delia was his family once, she was like them, but she must have got tired of his failures. Unlike his current family, she chose to turn her back on him with his friends. I will have to give this more though later, Ash said mentally. Right now it's time to address my family. Okay everyone, enough fooling around. Line up. Ash spoke, clapping his hands to get their attention. That did the trick, as every Pokemon stopped what they were doing and gave Ash their full attention. Some stood on the ground while some were on tree branches and rocks. The water types were relaxed in the crystal clear water as they eyed their trainer, while some of the smaller Pokemon were sitting on the bigger Pokemon so they could see better. Okay everyone, the first rounds were completed and thanks to the efforts of Hitmonlee we have continued into the second round. Ash began before he was drowned out by the burst of cheers from his Pokemon that were congratulating the fighting type, who blushed from all the praise and Ash's acknowledgement. Ash sighed before releasing a calming wave of aura that caused his Pokemon to quiet down. It was a trick he learned when training his aura capabilities. Aura follows the spiritual output of the user, and in a less sense, the user's emotions. The darker the person or emotion, then the darker and more unnerving the aura that's released. While if you kept calm and kind-hearted, then your aura shall become smooth and relaxing to others. He has used this trick to calm down fighting between Pokemon or end feuds between them. Also thanks to the efforts of Sceptile, we took down Lance's Aerodactyl. Ash paused to allow another round of cheers, though much calmer due to Ash still releasing his aura. Even with these victories, I don't want any of you to get overconfident. Aerodactyl is Lance's lowest level Pokemon from his main team and he still almost beat us. Also let's not forget the strength the other champions possess. Ash paused once more to let his words sink in. Don't get him wrong, Ash is very confident that his Pokemon will win no matter what comes their way, but in the event that they do lose, then he will go down because the opponent had more skill or power, not because they got arrogant. There are also a few trainers that have caught my attention. I've seen one of them battle and they were quite skilled. Just like us, he too only used one Pokemon and he dominated the battle. So we have tough challenges ahead, but like always, Ash's serious face then gained a confident smirk. We will come out on top. This caused his Pokemon to cheer loudly once more, ready to put everything they had into the upcoming battles. They refuse to fail. For Ash and all he has done for them, they will not go down. Ash smiled at his no, at his family. The ones that stuck with him through it all. I won't fail them, they worked too hard to get here. I won't lose this tournament. I won't fail them like I did in Unova. While Ash may be a champion, that loss in the Unova League still left a bad taste in his mouth. He had always gotten far in his leagues, even if he didn't win, but his try in Unova was a joke compared to the others. I'll be heading back to the hotel, and due to a certain situation arising, I will be carrying 6 Pokemon with me at all times compared to the usual 3 or 4 that I take, Ash said to his awaiting Pokemon. He would take more than 6 but was actually against the idea. Trainers think that you can only carry 6 Pokemon anymore, and that's cheating. That is actually wrong. When in the actual league itself or in a gym that you are to only carry 6 Pokemon, less chaos that way. While traveling though, it's a different story altogether. It's only recommended that you carry only 6 due to it being easier to raise 6 than like say 10 of them. Plus it's not as expensive to care for 6, unless of course you owned a Snorlax. Taking out 5 Pokeballs, he returned his chosen 5 Pokemon in a red flash while Pikachu jumped onto his left shoulder. Ash then looks to the rest of his Pokemon. As for the rest of you, continue your training regimen scarcely. I need you all to be ready when needed. His Pokemon nodded at his command before dispersing to either train or rest. Ash then handed his jacket, gloves, and staff to Zion. I've been meaning to ask, why do you not keep your stuff with you? Also, why do you act less mature than you really are when you're wearing it? Zion asked. Simple really, Ash replied seriously. No one knows that I'm Satoshi. Neither the champions nor do my former friends know that I'm the Satoshi guy that they met before. Adding to the fact that Ash Ketchum is a champion, and one that has not been interviewed so the media will hound after Ash not Satoshi, I would really not have to deal with them. This way I can move around more freely when I go out as Satoshi. Will Ash and Satoshi stay separate or will you reveal the truth at some point? Zion asked. Ash hummed before giving his answer. To be honest, I do not know. Most likely not until the finals, that way I can show the real me in the end. Zion nodded his head as he began to put away Ash's leather jacket among his other stuff, done asking questions. Seeing that Zion was done, Ash walked away towards the hotel, preparing for the inevitable game of question and answer that the other champions are going to play with him. After a good hour of walking, they made it to the hotel. Just as Ash was about to enter, he smirked before jumping backwards, dodging a spin kick to his face. Really Mia, Ash said to the now identified attacker. Can't you just say hi like a normal person? Even though Ash said this like her was irritated, the smirk on his face gave away how he truly felt. Yeah no. This is much more fun. Besides, it keeps you on your toes, Ashy Tilda, she said smirking at twitching of his left eye from her calling him by that nickname. Listen here flat chest, screw you. I would fight you but I just got done sparring with Zion and Lucario and, but before he could finish, Mia yelled. WHAAAT. You guys had a sparring session and didn't invite me to join it. She loved sparring, and she was not happy to have missed one. I'm sorry Mia, Ash said trying to calm down the fighting type elite. It was more of me testing him than an actual spar. How about you and me spar tomorrow after our battles? Fine but you better not chicken out Ashy, she said before running off to do who knows what. Ash blinked before chucking softly at her antics and enters the hotel before he realized what she called him causing him to mumble that his name was not Ashy. When he looked around the hotel, he saw each champion talking to each other with a few additions at the restaurant portion of the hotel. One was the ever-beautiful model of the Nimbasa gym of Unova, Elisa. She wore the same clothing she had when they had first met, though her blonde hair was slightly longer than before. Next to her was a girl with purple hair. It took Ash a second to realize that the girl he was currently looking at was Annabelle, the salon maiden of the Kanto Battle Frontier. She has definitely grown, though looked to still be a tomboy. Her body made it easier to tell that she was a girl with beautiful and enticing curves, and her now low B-cup chest. Still bigger than Mize, who's a mid-A cup at best, Ash said mentally snickering. He was thrown from his thoughts though when he heard the voices of both Alder and Lance calling out his name. Hey Ash, come on over here. He heard them yell out. This caused everyone to go dead silent as they looked towards Ash's approaching form. Lance was the first to get up and meet Ash halfway and the two shared a firm handshake. Man Ash, I can't tell you how great it is to see you back, safe and sound, Lance said with a huge smile on his face. Well, it's great to be back, right Pikachu? Ash replied. He really was glad to see all the champions again. They have all been a great influence for him to get stronger and to be where he is now. Pikachu nodded his head with a big smile on his face as well. He too was happy to see the people his friend looked up to in the past. Well Ash, come join us at the table, we have a lot to catch up with, like for instance, where you vanished to and why, Lance said in a semi-serious tone. It's fine Lance, I had a feeling you all would have questions for me so it's no problem, Ash replied with a small unnoticeable glow to his eyes. Ash may trust the champions but he needed to be 100% sure that these were not fakes. The slight glow allowed him to check their auras quickly without having to focus too much, though doing it that quickly always gives him a headache. Ash, are you okay? Lance asked, concerned seeing Ash wince slightly. Ash chuckled and waved off the concern. Well, if you say so. Ash, it's great to see you again. Alder boasted as he stood up and gave Ash a bear hug. Ash tried to return the hug but his arms were pinned to his sides due to the man's arms. Alder, can't, breath. Ash managed to say through his crushed lungs. Alder, seeing he was crushing the younger champion, quickly let go. My apologies, Ash. Ash chuckled at the older man. It's fine, Alder. No harm done, besides I'm just as excited to see you. Ash then gave Alder a big grin which he eagerly returned. Looking behind the big man, he saw the Hoenn champion drinking what he guessed to be either coffee or hot tea. Hello Steven, it's great to see you again. Steven smiled at the Kalos champion. Yes, it is a pleasure to see you as well, and might I be the first to say congratulations on becoming a champion. Thank you Steven. It's an honor to be recognized by a trainer of your stature, Ash replied, deciding to be a bit formal with the man. Ash did not really care for formalities too much, but he still knew how to act the part when it called for it. Steven will admit he was pleasantly surprised at Ash being so formal since the last time they met. He had as much subtlety as a raging primip in a glass antique store. He smiled at Ash's change. Before any more words could be said, an excited shout alerted them to the current Johto champion. Hey Ash, it's great to meet you. You probably don't know me, or maybe you do, but my name's Silver and I'm the champion of the Johto region. Let it be noted that he said all this in a single breath and at high speeds. Ash's head was spinning, trying to decipher the slightly older boy's words. When it finally settled, Ash responded, It's a pleasure to meet you Silver. I'm Ash Ketchum. I know who you are, Silver responded while grinning excitedly. I was told about you and your actions by the other champions. You are awesome, man. To face off against practically every legendary and still come out fine along with saving the world multiple times. Thanks for that by the way, and to save every legend from each evil organization is badass in my books. I mean, I saved Raiko from some Team Rocket goons in the past, but that's about it. Again, in a single breath. This guy must have a lot of practice in holding his breath, Ash while trying to decide on how to respond to the excited champion. Thanks. Was Ash's choice in words. Before Silver could continue to confuse Ash, a soothing voice was heard. Now Silver, calm down. There are others who wish to greet Ash too. The one who spoke was none other than Cynthia, who was trying everything in her power not to crush Ash in a hug like Alder had previous done and get of the blush she developed when she saw Ash. Ash had to fight down his own blush from seeing Cynthia and her gorgeous smile. He couldn't deny that the Sinnoh champion earned her title as one of the most beautiful trainers in the world. Wow, Cynthia is as beautiful as ever, Ash thought to himself as he couldn't stop his from roaming every perfect curve Cynthia's body possessed. This went unnoticed though by everyone besides Cynthia, who was blushing brighter than before. Normally she's used to such a thing from fans and strangers, but not from a guy she actually had a crush on. Hello Ash, I've missed you, Cynthia said as she gave Ash a loving hug, while discreetly feeling Ash's honed muscles. They were hardened but not too big, built more for speed. I've missed as well Cynthia. I'm sorry that I kind of fell off the face of the earth like I did, Ash said solemnly returning the hug. Ash could feel the worry that she and everyone had felt for his disappearance. Speaking of everyone, Ash turned to the last two girls that were looking directly at him with warm eyes. Hey Annabelle, hey Elisa, it's great to see you guys again. Annabelle had a big smile on her face along with a bright blush that caused the champions, except Ash who had a raised eyebrow and the other two girls whose left eyes were twitching, to smile and chuckle at the girl with obvious crush on the young champion. Hello Ash, I'm glad to see you are safe and sound. Elisa also had a blush on her face, though nowhere near as bright as Annabelle's. What can she say? Ash has grown more handsome than ever. Yes Ash, it's great to see you. I have missed the dazzling shine that both you and Pikachu glow with. Ash chuckled, keep an eye out then, we are just going to shine brighter battle after battle. Everyone gave a smile at Ash's little and was actually curious at how powerful Pikachu had actually become. After that they all began to talk more about different things. Like different training methods, the Pokemon they have seen, and places they have been. They joked around and even challenged each other to battles when the tournament was over. This went on until Elisa decided to ask the question that plagued each of their minds. So Ash, why did you just up and vanished for so long anyway? This got everyone to perk up since they were all curious about the same thing. The minute the question was asked, the temperature in the room seemed to drop as Ash dropped the Ash Ketchum mask and wore the Satoshi mask. I'm going to assume, by the question, that no one told you about what transpired between me and my friends. Ash said the word friends with so much venom that it sent shivers down everyone's spines. It left them to question, what did they do to Ash to make him so enraged? Since no one is answering, I believe I can safely assume that my guess was correct. To put it as simple and bluntly as possible, Brock and the others betrayed me, even after everything that I did for them, Ash said calmly yet coldly. Ash then told them what led up them going against him and his leaving for a long period of time to train. When he was done, they were all left enraged and very disappointed at all of them. While watching everyone's expressions, Ash felt something warm and wet forming on his palms and noticed that he had unconsciously clenched his fist tightly in his anger. When he opened his hands, he saw that he clenched so tightly that he had actually began to draw blood from his palms. He looked intensely at his slightly bloody hands before sighing and getting up to clean the blood off. Before he could though, he heard Cynthia's angelic voice speak out. Lance, please grab one of the napkins on the table and wet it please. Alder, I have a water bottle in my bag, so could you please hand that to Lance? While you're at it, grab the first aid kit from the front of pocket of it so I could bandage Ash's hands. They each did as they were asked and handed the items to Cynthia, who began tending to Ash's bleeding hands. Despite the situation, you could see that both Annabelle and Elisa were slightly jealous of Cynthia being able to take care of Ash at the moment. Thank you, Synth. I really appreciate it, Ash said, smiling warmly to the now red-faced blonde woman. I can't believe they would do that to you, Lance said, very disappointed, especially in Misty and Brock, who were with Ash the longest. Ash did so much for them, and for them to say that about the guy who did nothing but help them, it was really sad. I always thought Scylla would be by Ash's side considering, but I guess I was wrong, Alder said, shaking his head. It's fine, Ash said, checking his now bandaged hands. If I see them in battle, I'll prove them wrong by crushing them, but other than that, I want nothing to do with them. So where did you go then, before you became champion, that is? Annabelle asked, trying to control her own anger towards Ash's old friends. How dare they hurt her, Ash? He was so loving and kind, so hearing him speak so coldly and felt so much pain angered her. Why did you go Kalos though? I thought you would have challenged the Kanto League instead, Lance asked, slightly curious though he had an inkling as to why. No real reason, Ash began. I wanted a new start, in a new region, with new Pokemon. I wanted a new foothold and I figured Kalos would be the best since it was the closest region to me at that time. Also, I wanted to avoid them as much as possible. They all nodded their heads at the young trainer's reasons. After all, who would want to be near those that hurt so much? After a while of training non-stop with my Pokemon, I attended the Kalos League and won in the end. When I heard that I won, I was so relieved and proud, but I knew that I wasn't done just yet. I had to go further for my dreams to come true. I then challenged the Elite Four about a good 6 months later, which was not easy in the least but worth it since I learned more on how they act. Soon enough though, the battling came down to me and Diantha, which actually lasted the entire day. The battles were both long and hard, but the bond between me and my Pokemon helped pull us through to victory. As Ash spoke, he began scratching Pikachu behind the ears, earning him a happy squeal from the yellow mouse. So Ash, how does it feel to be a champion? Cynthia asked, while doing her absolute best not to hug Ash tight after seeing his gorgeous and warm smile. To be honest, it's been great, Ash said happily, going back to his Ash Ketchum mask. So many doors have been opened to me since, and it's only helped me and Pokemon get stronger. I could without all the media, but other than hiding from cameras, it's been awesome. Though he used his childish personality to say it, he meant every word. He really loved being a champion. Speaking of media, Annabelle began, gaining his attention. How come you decided to hide your identity from everyone? Rumors spread of Diantha's defeat, but nothing concrete was ever given. No other reason than just wanting my privacy for a while, adding to the fact that I wanted to make the challenge tougher, so I wanted to stay as an unknown to challengers for as long as possible. That thought is actually what made me also travel more and gain a brand new Elite Four for the Kalos region. Afterwards I had them travel to each of Kalos's gyms and train the leaders as well so they would also be tougher to beat. If the media had gotten a hold of the information then my plans would have been ruined so I did what I could to keep them at bay. It was the right thing to do since Kalos is now the toughest of the leagues to beat. Ash said this while beaming with pride in his league and everyone in it. His smile changed slightly to a more loving one when he thought of a certain fighting gym leader from the Kalos region and another blonde-haired girl in a red beret. No one seemed to notice this though, except for Cynthia, Annabelle, and Elisa who felt that they should be jealous at Ash's change. Sounds like you had a lot of work cut out for you, Steven spoke while smiling at the three jealous girls. You don't get so many fan clubs filled with girls and not be able to pick up on a girl's jealousy. He chuckled knowing how amusing things will get around here. Yes I did slightly but in the end it was all worth it, Ash spoke with a bright smile. To be able to walk up and say, yes I did that, is a great reward. I was able to carve my own path with my own two hands alongside my Pokemon and we continued to follow that path. I was told once that I was destined for greatness but I believe that was false because I don't believe in destiny. In my opinion, those who use destiny as an excuse for things are those who are afraid to dream. Everyone was shocked at hearing those words. They were words, no offense to said trainer, they never expected to hear from Ash. They couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in how much Ash has grown, not just as a trainer but as a person. Annabelle, Cynthia, and Elisa looked at Ash lovingly and a hint of admiration for who he has become. The other champions felt their respect for Ash skyrocket. Silver thought was the only one to have stars in his eyes at Ash's words. Well guys, Ash began while getting up and stretching, it's been fun but I need to get ready for tomorrow's victory. Don't you mean tomorrow's battle? Annabelle asked. Ash smirked confidently at her, I know what I said, he replied coolly before walking off with Pikachu on his shoulder. Everyone decided they should follow his lead and go to bed as well, though the girls let their eyes linger in the direction that Ash had went. About 2 hours later, we find Ash with both Pikachu and Lucario, ready to go to sleep. Well guys it's time to get some sleep for tomorrow. Pikachu and Lucario nodded before they too got ready for bed. Pikachu curled up at the foot of Ash's bed and Lucario laid on the other bed. Ash joined Pikachu in his bed before finally drifting off to sleep. Ash, after joining Pikachu on the bed, quickly joined the electric mouse Pokemon in the realm of sleep, but was suddenly awoken due to a loud explosion going off, shaking the ground violently with the destructive force it no doubt held. The explosion startled Ash to awake quickly and ready to jump out of bed, only to see he was already standing. Looking down, he noticed he was also no longer wearing his pajamas. He was garbed in his Aura Guardian attire with his Aura staff stabbed into the ground in front of him. Before Ash could think of what was going on, he heard a loud and familiar screech echo through his ears, right as another explosion went off, causing both him and the ground to shake once more. Looking around for the source, Ash realized something even more troubling. For one, it was no longer night time like he remembered. The sun blazed with its everlasting rays of light while the winds were calm. This was worrying in of itself but it was not what made Ash cringe and worry. It was the area that Ash was in. Ash has found himself in a burning town. He watched as the fire licking its way at one house continued to dance to the same unheard rhythm that the flames on another house danced to. He looked around and saw that the earth itself was upturned but some powerful force and many buildings were already in shambles. Ash began to hyperventilate at the sight of a child's park nearby being eaten away by the same horrifying flames. He knew these buildings, he knew that park, he knew where he was. Ash didn't find himself in some random burning town. He was in a burning pallet town. Ash's heart went wild with his flowing emotions, his anger and sadness being the most dominant of them all. His hometown, the place he lived, he was raised in, was being destroyed. All around him were his happy childhood memories, being burned to the ground before his very eyes. Looking up, Ash noticed two things. One thing was that there was not a single cloud in the clear blue sky but it couldn't come close to the shock that he held for what else was in the air. In the sky was the culprit, the one who was burning his hometown down to the ground. Flying around with its mighty golden-colored wings that, were it not for the situation, would be both entrancing and beautiful. The one destroying Pallet Town was Ho-Oh, the legendary rainbow Pokemon of Johto. Ho-Oh, another torrent of flames from its mouth that, instead of lighting the building it was heading for on fire, destroyed it instead. The area around where it were up in flames that slowed licked away at the ground, but whatever remained of the building as well. Ho-Oh, what are you doing? Ash yelled out in horror at the legendary bird's actions. If the legend hurt him at all, it didn't show it as it continued to rain its flames on the town. Ho-Oh, stop this right now. And he was still ignored. Ash was about to run towards the attacking Pokémon, but his battle instincts roared to life, causing him to roll to the left. This was good since he barely dodged a hyper beam that was heading his way. Scowling as he turned around, Ash found the culprit. It was Regigigas, the colossal Pokémon stomping its way towards him, charging another hyper beam. Not now. Ash yelled mentally, annoyed at the situation he found himself in. What in the name of Arceus is going on right now? He quickly made his way towards the gigantic Regi and slid under the fired hyper beam. When the danger passed over him, he stood up in front of the colossal Pokémon and fired a point-blank aura sphere that exploded and causing Regigigas to fall on its back. Knowing that he didn't have the time to deal with the fallen Pokémon, Ash reached for a Pokéball, only to find out that he had none on him at the moment. Damn it, just like last time too. Realizing he didn't have much time to waste here, he shot several more aura spheres towards the slowly rising Regigigas, causing it to fall back once more from the unexpected assault. Without a second thought, Ash ran towards Ho-Oh, leaving the groaning Regigigas behind. As Ash ran towards the legendary bird, he couldn't help but to look at the burning of his hometown. He just began to realize that he hasn't visited Pallet Town since the betrayal. To see this happening and that thought invading his mind began to fill Ash with more depressed as a tear managed to escape his right eye. This feeling also caused to pick up the pace as he faster passed another building that burst into flames like the others. As he neared the bird, another loud screech from Ho-Oh alerted Ash to the attacking bird once more, and what he saw filled him with dread as he ran even faster. Ho-Oh was preparing its signature move, Sacred Fire. If that attack finishes, then whatever's left of Pallet Town is done for. Ash yelled as he sped towards Ho-Oh, while channeling aura to his legs which allowed him to move quicker. If he could get in close then he could either deflect the attack or stop it altogether. That hope was quickly squashed as he had to dodge an incoming flamethrower from his left by jumping backwards, causing him to skid slightly. Looking quickly to his left, Ash clenched his fists in rage at the culprit of his current delay. There standing in front of him, was the same Charizard from his last nightmare. As it growled fiercely at him, smoke continued to spew from his nostrils. Ash quickly scanned the Charizard's aura, only to gasp loudly at what he just saw. The Charizard's aura was so powerful. Its aura easily topped his own by leaps and bounds. The Charizard's aura was like a raging wave, continuously crashing against each other, becoming even more chaotic. Ash tried to release a calm wave of aura, hoping to soothe the powerful Charizard's aura which, in turn, would allow him to see if he can stop its rampaging and maybe gain its help. The results were not what he was expecting, and not in a good way for him. Not only did the Charizard shrug off Ash's aura like a pest at its best, it roared so powerfully that it sent Ash flying backwards from the shockwave. When Ash eventually stopped skidding along the ground, he shakily got back to his feet as he stared at the flying Pokémon in surprise and spoke in a low voice. That's never happened before. He just pushed me back without any effort at all. It would need to know how aura works very well too. Before Ash could finish, his danger sense went off once more and he quickly ducked and dodged a kick that was aimed for his head while jumping back from an axe kick that easily cracked the ground. Ash was silently thanking Mia for all her constant sneak attacks. Looking at his attacker, he blinked when he saw no one there. Ash looked around before his eyes widened forward and coughed out blood due to the fist buried in his stomach. Once again, Ash found himself on his back though this time holding his face in pain from the knee that rammed into it. As Ash tried to soothe the throbbing pain, he also attempted to focus his aura to try and heal the pain as much as he could. But before he could do much, a foot stomped onto his chest causing him to have trouble breathing. Ash struggled from the pressure on his ribs, it was like a Snorlax was sitting on him. He opened his eyes, only to see the same person from his last nightmare, only this time there was a Pikachu on his shoulder that was grinning at him with a dark glint in its eyes. So Ash, how do you like what I did to the place? The cloaked man asked. I haven't been here in ages, so I figured I'd come by along with a few friends of mine while completely eradicating everything and everyone too. As the man spoke each word, he slowly applied more pressure to his foot, breaking a few of Ash's ribs in the process. Who are you? Ash wheezed out while trying to focus enough aura to strike back but noticed that his aura wouldn't listen to him, as if it was confused on what to do. I need to calm down. I can't use my aura with my emotions clouding my mind like this. Who am I? The man repeated, sounding very amused by the question. You know who I am, Ash. I would tell you more, but it looks like playtime is over for us. The man looked over to Ho-Oh, who was in the midst of firing the sacred fire that it finished charging. Ho-Oh, now finish it all. Burn all away with your holy flames. Use sacred fire. Ho-Oh fired its most powerful attack downward into the center of town. The flames quickly began to spread throughout the town. The sacred flames destroyed every building, turning them all into ashes within seconds. The silver flames spread from building to building, and even the very ground gave way to the powerful attack. The man looked at Ash once more. Know this, Ash. Soon the world will follow the same fate as the pallet town you see before you. Do you think you can handle what's to come? Before Ash could say a word in response, Ash felt sweat pour from his body as the intense flames quickly made their way towards him and the stranger and the two Pokemon. Ash could only watch helplessly as the fire washed over him, the stranger, and the two Pokemon, blinding them all in a bright silver light. Ash tried to scream, but the only thing that came out was a silent whimper. Arrrrhhh! Ash yelled out as he jumped upright in his bed, sweat pouring intensely down his face. Pikachu and Lucario jumped up from their sleep and into battle positions, ready to eliminate any threat. Ash bolted from his bed and ran to the bathroom and stared at his reflection while touching his face. He checked all throughout his body for any signs of burning or even just a bruise or pain. Finding none in the end, he turned the sink water on and splashed water onto his face to rid himself of the sweat. That was so vivid, it's like I felt every hit and even the very heat itself, Ash thought frantically. Something big is on the way, and that man and Charizard definitely has something to do with it. Master Ash, came the worried voices of both Lucario and Pikachu. The Aura Pokemon stood next to Ash while Pikachu sat perched on his shoulder with concerned expressions on their faces. Are you alright, Ash? Pikachu asked his trainer, really worried. I'll be fine, just really shaken up, Ash replied. I just had a really bad nightmare, but it will be fine. Are you sure, Master? Lucario asked, not convinced. He has never seen his master this frantic before. Yeah, partner, so don't worry about it, and stop calling me master, Ash said calmingly before it turned slightly annoyed. Come on, let me get ready so we can go out and eat and find out which Pokemon to use for out-battle today. Pikachu and Lucario nodded reluctantly, noticing that Ash was trying to avoid talking about what occurred but decided to just believe in their trainer. They turned around and left the bathroom. Closing the door behind the two Pokemon, Ash let out a low sigh escape from his lips. What was that nightmare all about? One was for certain. He had to check on Pallet Town as soon as he can. I will not let that happen, I refuse to let it happen. Turning on the shower, Ash began his day. He could feel it was going to be a long day. A few hours later, Ash is at his temporary training area along with his Pokemon, trying to decide who to use for the upcoming battle. His Pokemon stood, all anxious to be chosen to go battle. The others, like Charizard and Pikachu, knew they weren't going up until they had a really powerful opponent. They were both hoping to have that happen sooner than later. They really wanted to get a go at the tournament. Alright guys, I have made my choice, Ash spoke while taking out the required Pokeballs and returned his chosen Pokemon. The ones that weren't picked looked slightly disappointed to not be battling, but Ash assured them that they would all get their chance to show their prowess. They all nodded at their trainer, knowing he would give them their chance as well. After everyone was assured, Ash quickly left with his chosen Pokemon towards his battle at Block B, confident in his victory, which soon turned to a feeling of rage when he passed the building for Block A due to what he saw, or to be more accurate, the people he saw walking. Walking outside the stadium was none other than Delia Ketchum, Professor Oak, Gary Oak, and Don Berlitz. I'm just going to take the long way around, Ash thought to himself as he was about to turn around to avoid the, no doubt, conflict. His idea would have worked if not for. Hey Ashy. Mia having horrible timing as usual. Mia's outburst of his name caused Delia and Co. to look in their direction with wide eyes. In Delia's case, her eyes began to tear up when she saw her son looking at a girl and then to them. Ash, Delia said as she slowly walked towards her son, tears threatening to fall from her increasingly moistening eyes. My Ash, my sweet baby boy. You're back, sweetheart. Professor Oak and Dawn couldn't help but smile at the reunion of a loving mother and son. They knew how much Delia has been waiting for this day, the day to see her son again, though not all of them were so convinced of this moment. Gary was not easily overridden by his emotions, which was a good thing. He instantly noticed how Ash's eyes seemed to darken instead of lighten, the closer Delia got to him. Then looking closer, his eyes narrowed as he noticed how Pikachu seemed to tense and his eyes widened in realization of what was about to occur and quickly tossed out his Umbreon from his Pokeball. Pikachu used Thunderbolt. Umbreon used Shadow Ball. Pikachu shot a low-powered Thunderbolt that was intercepted by the Shadow Ball, causing a small explosion that caused Delia to cover her face in an attempt to keep the dust from entering her eyes, and she took a step back from the explosion so she would not fall to the ground. It would seem that Gary Oak has saved the day, Ash said in calm, uncaring voice while a cold grin was plastered on his face. Everyone present was shocked at the fact that Ash ordered an attack on his own mother. Gary glared pointedly at the fact that Ash showed no form of remorse for his action towards his mother. Delia stood there confused for a moment before what just happened finally sunk in. Her son tried to actually cause her harm. That thunderbolt he ordered was meant to hit her. As the cold, hard reality of what had just occurred hit her, her eyes burst into tears. Her baby boy has really tried to hurt her. Ash, honey, what are? Delia began to ask before her voice got stuck in her throat as Ash glared heatedly at her. Don't you dare call me like that again, Ash spoke venomously. Ash's rage caused Pikachu to yell out in agreement and for it to spark its cheeks in anger. With what you did, you have no right to speak as if we are close. No right. Ash, that is no way to speak to your mother. Professor Oak yelled out to reprimand the Kalos champion for his actions and words. The response given to him was for Ash's rage-filled eyes to go dead cold as they looked towards him, causing the professor's spine to shiver at the stare. Once again Gary had a gut feeling at what was about to occur and was ready just in time for Ash to speak his response to the elder professor. Pikachu use Electro Ball, Ash commanded smoothly. Umbreon Dark Pulse quickly. Gary countered. Like before, the two attacks met in a clash and quickly exploded, picking up some dust. Don't you ever speak to me like I'm some child you can scold, Professor, Ash said coldly, practically spitting out the word professor. If you ever dare try to scold me again, I promise Pikachu's next attack will not be countered again. Ash, what gives? Why are you attacking us? Dawn spoke out, clearly annoyed and unhappy about Ash's actions. Yeah, Ash. Gary yelled out, just as annoyed as Dawn was. What gives you the right to attack both your mother and my grandpa? I believe the right was given to me when you all mocked my dream. I believe the right was given to me when you all tried to crush said dream. I believe I was given the right when you all betrayed my trust. Ash spoke softly and by the end was yelling out in anger. Ash, please understand. Delia began to speak through her quickly approaching sobs in her throat but was interrupted by Ash. No, you understand. I want nothing to do with you, get it? Just talking to you all right now is pissing me off, so before I do something I may regret later. Ash narrowed his eyes while releasing a bit of his aura to strike more fear. It would be best you all leave me alone. After speaking those final words, Ash walked forward and took notice at how Gary and Umbreon tensed, ready to attack if necessary. When Ash got past all of them and was about to get too far, he heard his name being called by none other than Mia, who he could honestly say that he forgot was even there. Ash smiled at his fighting elite, knowing that she didn't mean for any of that to happen. Mia felt bad as she probably caused Ash to be in a really rotten mood now. She only wanted to wish him luck in his battle, even if she was sure he wouldn't need it, and make sure he remembered his promise to her for a spar. Now with Ash in a bad mood, well, there was no way she was going to spar with him. The last time they spared with him in a bad mood, he nearly broke both her arms and fractured her bottom two ribs mere moments in the spar. When her boyfriend found out how she got hurt, he was ready to practically murder Ash until she him not to, since Ash didn't harm her this bad because he wanted to, though the whole thing did put a strain on their friendship for about 3 or 4 months. Are you okay, Ash? I didn't mean for this too, but she was cut off due to Ash's chuckle and smirk. You shouldn't apologize all shy like Mia, it doesn't suit you, Ash replied still chuckling at her expense. Mia pouted while slightly glaring at Ash's grinning face. To think I was worried about the idiot, she thought playfully. Whatever you say, Ashy. Look, I just wanted to say good luck and I was going to meet with the others later today and wanted to know if you wanted to join us. Of course the invitation goes to Zion as well. Yeah, that sounds like fun, flat chest, Ash replied. They began to make their way away from the traders. Delia watched the whole exchange with a mix of agony, jealousy, joy, and curiosity. Agony because not only was he ignoring but he hated her. Her baby boy hated her, the very thought made her burst with tears. She felt jealousy due to the caring smile that he gave Mia and not her, joy at seeing Ash smile again, even if not to her, and curiosity at how the girl knew her son so well. Maybe they are dating. She quickly snapped out of her thought when she saw them walk away. She wanted to run after them, to hold Ash close as yelled for forgiveness. She wanted nothing more than to have her baby back. She watched as they walked away, leaving Delia to cry heavily for the son that wanted nothing to do with her ever again. As Ash walked away, he was in deep thought over the confrontation he just went through. I can't believe I actually attacked them. Ash was so surprised by his own actions, he knew he would be angry but to attack without any remorse at the time was unexpected and really unwanted. He was taught to care about and love life, that was the duty of an Aura Guardian and yet he disregarded that. He needed to get his anger under control. Hey Ash, are you sure that you are okay? Mia asked worriedly. Ash can be quiet at times but not with a battle coming up. He relates more to a kid with a new toy towards upcoming battles. Yeah, I'm fine, Ash began pausing in thought. Feeling guilty about how acted over there. I basically went against all that I learned to get where I am now. Stay calm and think rationally, I even attacked them. You were angry, Ash, Mia said in as comforting tone as she could muster. She's not really known for her comforting personality, her belief, you are upset. Then train. In the end your training will never betray you. Basically meaning to punch and break a few things to feel better, it's understandable that you would do something like that. You know Mia, Ash said causing Mia to lean in to hear Ash better, you really do suck at comforting people. This caused her to face fault at Ash's words. This caused Ash to chuckle at her, but thank you. Now I got to go win my battle, see you later flat chest. Ash then ran off towards his upcoming battle. Mia got up and smiled at Ash's retreating form before yelling out, good luck Ashy. Next up are Kyle Ringer from Little Root Town vs Ash Ketchum, champion of Kalos. Ash heard the announcer say as he just entered the stadium. Deciding to hurry up, he ran on the field as he was prepared to get this battle underway. Hello Ash, it will be a pleasure to battle and to win against you, Kyle taunted with a challenging smirk on his face that the shining sun seemed to enhance. Oh, you really think you got what it takes? Ash asked, smiling at his opponent's confidence. He loved battling confident, not to be confused with arrogant, trainers. How about I just show you, Cloyster, let's battle. Kyle stated as he tossed out a net ball, releasing the dual water ice type. Okay then, let's see if you can handle this, Scizor, lend me your power. Ash yells out as he sent out his own dual steel bug Pokemon. Around the waist of the red armored bug was a black belt that held a colorful stone in the middle that acted as the buckle. It was a Scizorite, the Mega Stone for Scizor. With Kyle knowing what it was, his eyes widened in both shock and worry. I guess I shouldn't be so surprised since he is the champion of the region where Mega Evolution is studied the most. Now that the trainers are ready, let the battle begin. Cloyster, let's start this thing off with an icy wind, Kyle commanded. Cloyster instantly took a deep breath and released the cold attack towards Scizor, who only stood calmly. Scizor, cut right through that with your flash cannon, then get in close and use Metal Claw, Ash said quickly. Scizor opened its right claw while pointing it towards the incoming icy wind and gathered a shining orb of energy in the middle of the claw and fired the steel attack. The flash cannon easily pierced through the ice attack and continued its path towards Cloyster. Cloyster dodge quickly and smash him ice shard, Kyle commanded without missing a beat. Cloyster quickly rolled to the left dodging the steel attack, only to jump back and avoid the incoming Scissor's glowing claw swipe. Cloyster then began spinning in a blurring pace with a glowing ring spinning around it. Then with a speed not known for its species, Cloyster rammed into its opponent, sending it flying back with a cry of pain. That wasn't bad at all, Ash thought while smirking, impressed by the battle. It would seem to counter Cloyster's low speed, he trained its reflexes to S high degree. Scizor use swift now. Scizor quickly righted itself in midair and shot the golden stars at Cloyster, hitting him directly. Cloyster grunted in minor pain but was relatively unharmed thanks to the shell absorbing most of the attack damage. Cloyster use Hydro Pump. Cloyster responded to the command by charging the powerful water attack before firing towards the now landing Scizor. Scizor dodge, then use X Scissor followed by Metal Claw, Ash commanded in an even tone. Scizor jumped and charged towards Cloyster, effectively dodging the water-type attack. Cloyster dodge it and counter with your Ice Beam, Kyle said in response to Ash's command. Cloyster tried to dodge but Scizor was too fast and was hit hard, causing it to grit its teeth in pain before yelling out in pain due to the follow-up of Metal Claw, sending it through the air. Come on Cloyster, get it together and use Ice Beam. Ignoring the pain, Cloyster fired an ice beam towards Scizor who only braced itself for its trainer's next command. Scizor counter that with iron defense, then use your flash cannon, then chase after Cloyster, Ash commanded. Scizor's body glowed metallic, causing his armored body to become harder before he fired the white beam at the incoming ice attack, easily cancelling out the attack. Then Scizor took off in blinding speed towards the falling bivalve Pokémon. Cloyster, keep him away from you, use Icy Wind then follow it up with Hydro Pump. Kyle commanded. Cloyster sent out the Icy Wind, not only hitting Scizor before he could dodge, but also freezing the floor of the battlefield which caused Scizor to slip due to the suddenly slippery terrain. Not wasting an opportunity, upon its landing, Cloyster fired its Hydro Pump, gaining a direct hit upon Scizor who yelled out in pain. Scizor slammed its claws into the ground which allowed it to jump high and land in front of Ash while having its arms crossed. Are you okay, buddy? Ash questioned the bugged steel type who nodded in response. Perfect with the ice on the floor, it will slow Scizor down, Kyle thought smirking. Cloyster use Ice Beam on Scizor. Cloyster released the cold blue beam to the pincer Pokémon. Scizor hold your ground and counter with flash cannon again, Ash commanded. I have to get Scizor in close so Cloyster can't dodge so easily, but how? The frozen floor will work against Scizor's speed. While Ash was deep in thought, Scizor fired its steel-type attack to counter the ice beam causing an explosion that cracked the ice floor. Cloyster used Spike Cannon then quickly fire an Icy Wind, Kyle yelled out to his Pokémon. Cloyster closed its shell, leaving a thin crack opening. The spikes on its shell glowed white before shooting thin needles that quickly raced towards Scizor. Then Cloyster fired an Icy Wind through the opening. The wind easily caught up to the thin needles, not only freezing the needles but making them fly towards Scizor even faster. Crap, Scizor can't dodge fast enough. Ash yelled mentally. Scizor use Metal Claw to block and try to hold your ground. Scizor's claws glowed metallic and he quickly crossed its claws in front of him to try and decrease the amount of damage he would take. The frozen needles quickly bombarded the guarding Scizor, before he lost his balance due to the pushing winds and the frozen floor. Scizor yelled out in pain due to the double assault from Cloyster. Now quickly Cloyster use Hyper Beam before he can recover. Kyle yelled out quickly, hoping to finish off Scizor. Cloyster quickly charged the beam of destruction and fired it towards the struggling Scizor. Scizor counter quickly with your own Hyper Beam. Ash yelled out to hopefully help out the pincer Pokémon. Quickly opening its claws, Scizor fired a Hyper Beam of its own. The problem with the counter though, was that Cloyster's Hyper Beam was extremely close to Scizor, so when the two powerful collided, Scizor was caught in the resulting explosion. Everyone, except Ash who had his eyes closed, leaned forward to see what happened as the smoke began to clear. It looks like we have an amazing challenger this time around, Ash mentally smirked. He already knew the results of this confrontation. When the smoke cleared, Scizor was unconscious on the cracked ice floor with burn marks on its red metallic body. Scizor is unable to battle. Please send out your next Pokemon, the referee said as the crowd burst into the cheers. Alright, great job Cloyster. Kyle cheered for the bivalve Pokemon. Cloyster merely grinned towards its excited trainer. Ash returned Scizor after thanking him for all his hard work in the battle, and then he looked towards his opponent before tossing out another Pokeball. Zoroark, let's rock this battle. Out of the Pokeball came out the dark type of Unova as it roared out for battle. What is that thing? Kyle shouted mentally. Reaching into his back pocket, he pulled out a black Pokédex and recorded the information, and he was really surprised to find out how rare Zoroark was. Zoroark, while known, is a really difficult Pokemon to find and said to be nearly impossible to actually capture. Due to its ability to cast illusions, it always evades capture, and if that fails, its ability to transform into anyone it chooses does not. The referee called out for the match to begin. I'll still take it down though, especially with the field still frozen. Cloyster, let's go, use Hydro Pump. Kyle commanded. Cloyster gave a cry before firing out the powerful water attack at Zoroark, who didn't look the least bit worried. Split it down the middle with Night/Zoroark, Ash commanded smoothly. Zoroark's glowed a dark purple color, then when the jet of water close enough, thrust its arms forward, completely splitting it apart. The sliced water continued in its path and exploded upon contact with the walls behind the dark Pokemon. Zoroark, get rid of the ice around you, use Night Daze now, Ash told his Pokemon in confident tone. Zoroark nodded and the entirety of both its arms glowed a dark purple before slamming them onto the ground, instantly creating a powerful dome of dark purple energy that destroyed the ground and ice surrounding him. The shockwave of the attack also cracked any of the remaining ice. Kyle sweated a little at the display of power Zoroark just demonstrated. That thing has some serious power behind it. Cloyster used Spike Cannon. Like before, Cloyster's shell closed up and shot the thin needles from the spikes protruding from its shell. The attack quickly raced towards the dark Pokemon. Zoroark dodged, then quickly run towards him and use Night/, Ash commanded. Zoroark ducked down on its stomach, dodging the needles easily before rolling to the right and running towards Cloyster. Cloyster quickly use Icy Wind, Kyle commanded, slightly worried but ready to counter. Ash just smirked at the attempt to stop his Pokemon. Zoroark, push through that with your flamethrower and keep going, Ash said. Zoroark roared and the jet of flames shot from its mouth that easily pushed through the icy wind, allowing Zoroark to keep running forward. Zoroark converged upon Cloyster, completely surprising the bivalve Pokemon. Now Zoroark, Night Daze, then Flamethrower. Ash yelled out, not willing to let this opening slip past him. Zoroark slammed its hands on the ground, instantly slamming Cloyster with the quickly growing Dark Blast, launching it back. Then Zoroark shot loose a jet of flames, causing Cloyster to yell out in pain. Cloyster quickly passed out from the pain, causing the referee to announce Zoroark as the winner. Kyle returned Cloyster after congratulating him for all his hard work. He then sent out a Blaziken that had an X-shaped scar on its left cheek. As soon as the referee declared the match to begin, Kyle wasted no time giving out a command. Blaziken, use Blaze Kick. Kyle commanded, causing Blaziken to take off with impressive speed towards Zoroark. Use Night/, to counter him, Ash countered. Zoroark took off in similar speed to its fire-fighting opponent. Both Pokemon were nearing each other, Blaziken swinging his flaming left foot and Zoroark countering with its darkened right claws. The two attacks instantly cancelled each other out, but not before leaving a dent in the ground from the shock of impact. Flamethrower. Both Kyle and Ash commanded simultaneously. Both Pokemon let loose a close-range jet of fire that pushed against each other for dominance. The two power Pokemon raised up the amount of energy, feeding the flames, causing as they tried to win their struggle. The result was a powerful explosion. Zoroark, keep up the pressure with Night/. Zoroark took off once more with its dark claws to take down the fire starter. Sky Uppercut, Blaziken, quick, Kyle quickly countered. Once more, the two Pokemon met in a devastating power struggle where one tried to overpower the other, neither one willing to back down. They poured more power into their attacks, causing an explosion that covered up the battling Pokemon in thick smoke. Kyle narrowed his eyes, trying to see through the smoke and ready to command an attack the moment he could see the Pokemon again. Ash didn't give him the chance. Zoroark use Night Daze then follow it up with Night Slash to send Blaziken flying, Ash commanded smoothly. Kyle's eyes widened but before he could respond a dome of dark energy knocked both Blaziken and the smoke away. Then he charged towards Blaziken with darkened claws. Shit! Kyle yelled mentally. Blaziken, catch yourself and use flamethrower. Kyle was hoping to buy some time to think of a plan to take the lead into the battle. He underestimated Zoroark's agility. By the time Blaziken recovered its bearings enough to fire its flamethrower, Zoroark was already there. Surprised, Blaziken had no time to counter the incoming Night Slash and was sent upward. Zoroark after him, Ash commanded his dark Pokemon. Zoroark obeyed its trainer and with a yell to the crowd, jumped after Blaziken who began to wake up, though in a lot of pain. Zoroark was now above the fighting starter, ready for its trainer's next command. Zoroark, finish it off with your Night Daze at mid-power, Ash commanded seriously. He figured he should reward his opponent's skills in the battle by battling him as the champion of Kalos instead of some immature kid. Zoroark, hearing Ash's tone of command, decided to battle seriously. With a battle cry, swung its arms forward to slam into the falling opponent. Blaziken, come on, get out of the way and use Blaze Kick. Kyle yelled out to his Pokemon. Blaziken's eyes snapped open and he twisted his body, dodging Zoroark's arms. Then sticking his left flaming leg out, kicked surprised Zoroark in the face with enough force to send him to the ground. When Zoroark made contact on the ground, an explosion took place which picked up enough dust to obscure Zoroark from everyone's sights. Ash was actually impressed by the maneuver. Not bad, Kyle, you truly earned your place here. You and your Pokemon have earned my respect and trust me, that is not an easy task to do. Kyle actually began to grin in pride. Ash, a champion, was praising his skills as a trainer. It was huge boost to his pride. However, I'm afraid this is where this battle ends, Zoroark. From the smoke, Zoroark walked out from the covered in scratches but otherwise fine and roared out in anticipation for more. Go and use Night Slash. Zoroark took off in high speed towards Blaziken, who was surprised by his opponent's quicker speed. Blaziken use Sky Uppercut, Kyle told his Pokemon. The two Pokemon collided once more with enough force that it shook the ground. Ash and Zoroark were surprised by the sudden power that Blaziken displayed. Focusing, and that is when Ash felt it, a rise in Blaziken's aura and a red aura that was slowly growing. Ash knew what both meant instantly and smirked. The first aura rise means that Blaziken just got stronger, in other words he has leveled up. The red fiery aura means that Blaziken is getting tired, so his Blaze ability is starting to activate. Just one more push and it's over, Ash thought. Just keep on the pressure until you get that opening, Zoroark. Zoroark kept on attacking with Night Slash, as if it heard Ash's thoughts. Blaziken kept countering or dodging while being pushed back further and further. Kyle was sweating from frustration, not seeing a way for Blaziken to be able to get out of the way easily. Zoroark could as high, if only a bit slower, than Blaziken, so escape by air was out of the question. Trying to escape via the side or backwards would prove fruitless due to the speed that Zoroark possessed. He would be on Blaziken before he had time to recover his bearings. His hands were pretty much tied, leaving only one option: dodge and hope Ash and or Zoroark make a mistake. Through all this, even the crowd grew silent at the silent one-on-one battle between the two final evolution Pokemon. The only sounds heard being the battle cry of the two Pokemon, the impact of their attacks, and the cracking of the battlefield due to the force of the fierce attacks. This constant bout between the two lasted for 2 more minutes before a mistake was finally made apparent. Blaziken, while dodging, had jumped back a bit to get some distance between him and Zoroark. Problem was Blaziken slammed its back into the wall behind him, not knowing how close to it he was, causing him to flinch and cry out from the pain, giving Zoroark the opening he and Ash were waiting for. Now Zoroark, Night Daze and follow up with Night Slash to throw him away. Then finish him off with your Focus Blast, Ash commanded with his full of authority. Zoroark quickly slammed its arms onto the ground, creating the now familiar dome of darkness that slammed Blaziken back into the wall, who bounced off after ramming into it. Then with grace of movements, Zoroark moved to be beside Blaziken before using Night Slash to throw Blaziken away from both him and the wall. Blaziken roared out in pain before his voice was drowned out by the explosion of Zoroark's focus blast hitting him dead on. The smoke quickly dispersed, though it felt like hours to the audience, to reveal the unconscious Blaziken. The crowd roared into cheers at the intense battle between the two powerful Pokémon and highly skilled trainers as the referee announced Ash as the victor. The two trainers returned their Pokémon though Kyle turned to exit the field after thanking Ash for an amazing battle. Hey Kyle. Kyle turned around to face Ash, who had been the one call him. Offering the trainer a smirk, Ash continued, I hope to battle you again someday. He wanted to be sure Kyle knew how much he enjoyed their battle and wanted to challenge him again. Kyle smiled and nodded before walking away once more. No longer being needed on the battlefield, Ash left through the opposite side door, in a much better mood than when he entered. This battle just proves my point, Ash said mentally. There are some seriously skilled trainers in this tournament. As Ash exited the building, he could hear the crowd cheering for the battle between two trainers named Dustin and Luca. So Ash, what do we do now? Pikachu asked from his perch on Ash's left shoulder. Ash shrugged, unsure of what they should do next. They still had time before Mia was done with her battle, so he had nothing planned as of yet. Let's go eat, I'm actually kind of hungry, Ash said, walking towards the town. Pikachu shrugged his shoulders, silently agreeing with his longtime trainer. As they walked through the mini-town, Ash couldn't help but smile at the town and people. The changes it's gone through for this tournament was phenomenal. So ingrained in his own thoughts, Ash failed to notice all the people who gave pause to stare at the young champion. Children stopped playing to stare in awe, while parents looked shocked. The trainers that finished their battles and were sightseeing looked at Ash either challengingly or with respect. A lot of the girls that laid eyes on Ash blushed instantly at the warm and happy look on his handsome face. Some looked to be holding themselves back from either squealing or tackle-hugging him. Pikachu, being the only one to notice the stares, chuckled at their reactions towards Ash. Pikachu wouldn't let any of them near his trainer and friend though. He knew they were more interested in Ash Ketchum the Kalos champion and good-looking male than Ash Ketchum the good-hearted person. He was already betrayed by those who said they cared. Last thing he needed was a total heartbreak from a mate. That would completely destroy what was left of his friend's already wounded heart. And he would destroy anyone to prevent that from happening, Arceus be damned. Ash, sensing his first Pokemon's rising anger, put his hand on his cheek and rubbed soothingly. The effect was instantaneous, as Pikachu's anger was quickly replaced by a happy and joyful cry. Pikachu quickly apologized for losing his temper and Ash merely chuckled, telling him that it was alright. The duo finally stopped at a restaurant that looked to be based on the cuisine found in Johto. It was a moderate-sized, round building. It has a rounded roof with pictures of the Johto starters chasing each other going around it. In front of the building were statues of Noctowl in mid-flight on either side of the door. The building had, Tasty Johto, written in golden bars above the entrance, signifying it is the name of the restaurant. What do you say, Pikachu? Want to give it a try? Ash asked his partner, who shrugged. Ash entered the building, and his sense of smell and hearing were instantly assaulted by the ongoings of the restaurant. The place was filled with people and families, all enjoying the food brought to them by the various waiters and waitresses. This seems to be a nice place, Ash spoke out loud. Pikachu just looked around, opting to stay silent for now. As they made their way in further, he caught the attention of the host of the cozy establishment. The man's eyes widened slightly at the champion, before schooling it to be more professional. He walked up to Ash with a menu in his hands. Hello sir and welcome to Tasty Johto. How may I be of assistance? Sensing the slight nervousness of the man, Ash gave a calming smile and let a bit of his soothing aura out, instantly relaxing the tense man. Yes, I would like a table for one if there is one available. The calm visage of the man changed to disappointment as he replied, I apologize sir but at the moment we are full. If you would like to wait, I'm sure one will open up soon. Ash smiled, never deterred at the man's words, it's quite alright. Thank you so much for your kindness but he was interrupted by a male voice calling out to him. Hey Ash, come join our table over here. The slightly familiar male voice called out to his left. Looking to his left, where he heard the voice came from, he saw a young male with brunette hair that lay down as if it was wet. He had two bangs in front of his face that slightly covered his red eyes that shone with mischief. He wore a loose black shirt that had a picture of a flaming fist on the front. Over that was a blood-red vest that held two pockets on each side. He wore long blue pants that held two pockets on each side. He wore long blue pants that held four pockets along with red and black shoes. The boy waved his hands, showing he was the one to call him over. Seated next to him was another male that didn't so much as glance up, opting to continue eating what appeared to be soup of some kind. He had short black hair that was cut up to just above his eyes. He had deep blue eyes that held a sense of calm but held a deep raging storm waiting to be unleashed. He also wore a pure white shirt along with a black jacket over it that was zipped halfway up. He wore dark green jeans with black sneakers. Finishing the look, he wore green, fingerless gloves that were black at its borders. Ash knew these two instantly and it made him smile to see them. He walked at a quickened pace to greet them respectively. Hey Mike, Jacob, how are you guys? Mike Shamrock was a 21-year-old that was born and raised in Celestic Town back in the Sinnoh region. He was a fun guy to be around, even if he was a bit of a sarcastic person. He met Mike when he traveled the Alvos region for some training. Mike was a fighting-type specialist and was actually a gym leader of the small region. The two got into a battle out of pure boredom, where Ash won easily. He asked Ash to help him train and Ash agreed, allowing their friendship to grow further. After a good 3 months of friendship, Ash gave him a Pokemon egg and left to continue his travels. Ash stretched his arm out to give his friend a handshake. I'm doing great Ash, it's been a while, about 3 years huh? Mike responded with a grin and returned the handshake. Ash could tell by the firm grip and the rough exterior of his hand that Mike has been training hard since they last parted. Turning his head towards the still eating male, Ash called out, Hey Jacob what's up? His reply for his effort was a simple nod of the head. Jacob Matthews was a year younger than Mike but no less in skill. In fact, Jacob himself was a very accomplished trainer, which included being a gym leader and part of the G-Men. He was born and raised in Viridian City in the Kanto region. He was a quiet, not to say he doesn't talk, just not when he doesn't need to and when he does it's usually quiet. He is the current boyfriend of Erica, the gym leader of Celadon City. Ash met Jacob through some very strange circumstances. Ash was in the middle of a training test, set up by the legendaries. His job was to use his aura, with his eyes closed, to find and tag the legendary North Wind, Suicune. After 3 hours of searching, he finally found Suicune sitting by a huge lake. Ash was about to jump out at the legendary, only to dodge an incoming hydro pump from his left. Quickly using his aura to read who attacked him, he saw the energy of a mad young man and a snarling Vaporeon by his side. By his aura, Ash could tell that the man did not look too pleased with Ash. Ash warned his attacker to leave but his efforts were ignored and the man demanded to know what Ash was planning to do to Suicune. The legendary was able to see what was going on but chose to ignore what was going on, opting to rest a bit longer. Ash told him to back off but that led into a battle between Ash and his attacker's Vaporeon, a battle where Ash barely won. Knowing Suicune decided to run off, Ash told the man that he and Suicune were friends. It took 10 minutes but Ash was eventually able to convince the man, whose name was Jacob, that he meant the legendary no harm. After hearing Ash out, Jacob apologized for his brash attitude. It turns out there have been a huge rise in poachers and Jacob has been deployed to stop them by the head of the G-Men. After some talking they went their separate ways, only to meet up 2 days later as some poachers tried to capture Suicune. Jacob and Ash teamed up and easily defeated the 15 poachers. Suicune nodded in thanks to Jacob and gave Ash the, I could have handled that myself, look before running off. After that incident, Ash and Jacob spent some downtime together and became good friends before going their separate ways once more, promising to battle when they meet again. Well Ash, don't just stand there, Mike spoke out with a smile. Take a seat and let's eat, there's more than enough to go around and we can order more if we need to, for your bottomless pit you call a stomach. Ash chuckled at his friend's comment and rubbed the back of his head. Sure, thanks for the offer, Ash said as he sat down while Pikachu hopped onto the table. Ash and Mike went on to talk of how things have been since they last met, the things they have seen and more. Jacob threw in a few things here and there but for the most part stayed silent and watched the two excitable trainers speak. This pleasant atmosphere stayed for 2 more hours before they realized how long they have been there. We should probably get going, it's getting a bit late, Mike said as he got up. Ash and Jacob nodded as they left money on the table. As they walked out, they heard the man that greeted them when they entered, wish them a good day. I think it's about time I go meet up with my friends, why don't you guys join me? Ash spoke to himself before addressing his two companions. Mike smiled and said yes to the invite, but Jacob shook his head no. I can't, Erica is waiting for me in our room. Right. You can't make the girl mad, Mike responded. After all, you pull too hard you might break that nice leash attached to that pretty collar around your neck. Mike started chuckling at his joke while Jacob gave Mike a hard glare. Suddenly, one of Mike's Pokeballs popped open and in a flash of light, came out a Lucario. Raising its right paw, Lucario slammed it onto the back of the still laughing Mike's head. This caused Mike to stop laughing as he yelled out in pain and turn around to shoot a glare at his partner. What was that for Martha? Jacob started chuckling at his friend's pain while saying, you really should have seen that coming, Mike. Martha always keeps you in line in the first place. This comment caused Mike to glare at Jacob as well. Simple, you were being an idiot, the Lucario responded to her trainer's question. Everyone looked to Ash for a translation, since they knew he could understand them through his aura. After translating, Mike deadpanned at his Pokemon's cruel words to him while Jacob chuckled even more. Ash shook his head at Mike and Lucario before flaring his aura to get them to calm down. Calm down you two, we have to get going since I'm already late. Jacob, have a nice night and tell Erica I said hey and would like to catch up with her at some point. Oh yes, those two will have a very nice night, Mike stated smirking, before Martha slammed her paw into his head again, causing him to yell in pain once more. Jacob, choosing to ignore Mike's statement in pain, addressed Ash. I'll let Erica know, she would most likely enjoy seeing you again. Turning around, Jacob walked off while giving them a two-finger salute. Well, are you two ready to go? Ash addressed to the duo before they had a chance to argue, after Jacob waved his goodbye. It's funny how Mike holds an argument with a Pokemon while not being able to understand what that Pokemon is saying. Rubbing the back of his sheepishly, Mike returned his Lucario before walking up to Ash. Let's go, he said trying to make it seem like nothing happened. Shaking his head, Ash and Mike made their way from the restaurant. Pikachu sat on Ash's shoulder, awaiting to see Ash's Elite Four. Maybe he could get a chance to battle. He didn't want to get rusty after all. Near Ash's training ground, we find Suzaku, Alex, Mia, and Zion. Hey Suzaku, do you have any gum on you? Alex asked her boyfriend. Yeah love, Suzaku replied as he pulled out a bar of gum from his pocket. I bought 2 different flavors, so which one do you want, cherry or strawberry? Alex reaches out and picked out a piece of strawberry gum. Ash is coming, right babe? Tai asked to Mia, who was leaning on a tree with a Hitmontop meditating next to her. Mia nodded in response to the question. Well, he's taking his sweet time. I wouldn't say that, Tai, a voice spoke out and causing them to turn around to find Ash, Mike, and Pikachu. I was just taking the scenic route. Yeah, whatever you say, Ketchum, Tai responded with a mocking glare. Alex shook her head at 2 grown men acting like children. So what took so long? I had to eat, I would be waiting for a long while since my battle was earlier, Ash responded as he released his Pokemon from their confinement. By the way everyone, this is Mike and Mike, these are my elites Mia, Alex, Suzaku, and Tai. They all gave him their separate greetings and he returned them in kind. Now if you guys would excuse me, I have to give Tauros and a few if the other Pokemon a scrubbing down. It's been too long since I have, Ash said as some his Pokemon were already heading towards the water, ready for their bathe. We will give you a hand then Ash, Tai and Zion offered as they made their way towards the water too. I guess I will feed the Pokemon then. Give me a hand Suzaku, Alex said waving to her boyfriend who shrugged his shoulders and made his way to give her a hand. Having nothing better to do, Mike and Mia spoke to each other. Hoping to get to know the other better. So what type do you specialize in Mia? Mike asked her curiously. I'm a fighting type specialist, she responded excitedly. I've always loved the rush from a good fight ever since I was little. My father was a coach for fighting types and my mother's grandfather owned a dojo, which my mom now currently runs. So I have been raised around fighting types my whole life. Mike whistled in astonishment. You were a fighting prodigy just waiting to happen. Mia nodded her head with a prideful smirk tugging at her lips. So how did you meet Ash? Mia looked at the slightly older trainer before turning her gaze towards Ash with a warm, caring smile. I met Ash when I was training in the forest. My mother wanted me to take over the dojo someday, but I wanted to do something more. Ash, he saved me from that. Flashback, 4 years ago. Come on Tyrogue, you got to move faster, yelled a younger Mia to the small fighting type. The two fighting specialists were running through the forest while wearing heavy weights strapped to both their arms and legs. I got it Mia. The fighting Pokemon yelled out, though all Mia heard was a loud, Tyrogue. A few minutes later the duo stopped by a small river to relax in the warm sun. As Tyrogue splashed himself with water, Mia was lost in thought as she sat on the soggy grass. Her mother is grooming her to be the next dojo master, but that's not what she wants to do. Don't get her wrong, she loves the family dojo and all its students very dearly, but she wants to be more than a simple dojo master. She wants to travel the world, challenge and beat the best there is. She wants to be something more renowned. But that won't happen, Mom is too stubborn, Mia thought bitterly before she was knocked from her thoughts by her wet Tyrogue jumping in front of her while growling at a shaking bush. Mia quickly stood up and entered her family's fighting stance named Swift Step, which focuses on quick strikes from the hands and legs and even faster reflexes and flexibility over raw power. Come out now. Nothing happened besides the bush shaking more violently, and before she could yell out again, the shaking stopped. After a few more seconds a silver blur suddenly flew from out the foliage and towards Mia and Tyrogue. Thanks to their reflexes, the duo moved out of the way in time from colliding with the object as hit the water, causing a big splash. Thanks to the splash, this gave Mia and the little fighting Pokemon time to look at their attacker and see that it was a Lucario with silver fur instead of the usual blue, while its eyes were a blood red color and its chest plate was a black color. Its soaking wet fur seemed to shine bright in the midday sunlight. Before Mia could go and see if it was okay, the Lucario stood up quickly and shot an aura sphere at the bush it flew from. The ball of aura exploded and annihilated the bush upon its explosion, while uprooting and destroying nearby foliage and leaving scorch marks on the nearby trees. The attack also left a decent-sized hole where the once healthy bush stood. Figuring that the Lucario attacked whatever had thrown it, after getting over the show of power that the attack held, Mia looked around for the attacker. A powerful aura sphere shot from the left, shooting from the treetops, towards the Lucario. The silver-furred Pokemon cocked its left paw back before swinging it forward with a mighty yell. The aura sphere was destroyed, but the force of the attack caused the water underneath to shake violently. Mia was shocked that Lucario destroyed such a powerful aura sphere with just one punch. She has never seen a Lucario do something like that before, and she has seen some really powerful Lucarios. The Lucario began the use of a metal claw but paused when a male voice echoed out. That's enough, Lucario. Instantly the sharp glowing claws dissipated, leaving its usual black paws. It then bowed slightly in the direction the voice seemed to come from the most. Mia looked at the tree branch closely, before gasping and blushing as a handsome young man walked out from behind the tree. He looked to be about 16 years old with raven black hair that reached his shoulder blades. The hair looked untamed, spiking out in all directions, but it only added to his appeal. He wore a gray, long-sleeved muscle shirt that showed he was very fit. He had a staff held in his right hand that held a blue crystal. He also wore a red pair of jeans with no shoes on his feet. All in all, Mia really liked what she was seeing. Hello there, the young man said as he jumped off the tree branch and landed on the ground, never once taking his eyes off her. My name is Ash Ketchum and that's my partner Lucario. I'm sorry if we disturbed you. Mia responded with a smile and a shake of her head. Don't worry about it. Tyrogue and I were just resting anyway. It was awesome to see that little spar anyway. Her eyes practically sparkled as she spoke of the spar she witnessed. Ash chuckled at the slightly younger girl's excitement. I'm glad you enjoyed that little display. Do you mind if we joined you? Not at all. Mia responded quickly. The more the merrier. She quickly sat down by the lake once more. Ash sat down beside her and the two trainers began talking. Ash's Lucario began meditating while Tyrogue lay on the grass next to its trainer. So your mom is adamant about you taking over the family dojo, Ash stated after hearing about Mia's situation. Yeah, but I don't want that for my life, she responded with a sigh. Just being a dojo master is not for me. That's one reason I trained so hard, so my mom can see that I can achieve so much more. Ash nodded at her want to prove herself. It looks like I found a candidate at last. Alright Mia, I'll help you with your dream. Mia's eyes widened at Ash's declaration. Are you serious? Will you really help me? Mia asked incredulously. The power his Lucario showed earlier still fresh in her mind. Ash nodded, which caused her to cheer loudly as she yelled out about getting stronger. Ash chuckled at her joy. This is how it should be, people getting the chance to live their dreams. Standing up, Ash looked at his Lucario, who nodded his head indicating that he was ready to help. Mia, let's get a move on. We're heading to the dojo now, Ash called out to the excited fighting-type trainer, who was spinning Tyrogue around in joy. She stopped and smiled as she smiled to the waiting trainer with Tyrogue, who was a little dizzy, and began to lead the way. After about 30 minutes they came upon a huge structure with big wooden doors. She pushed the deceivingly light doors as they swung open, revealing a courtyard with both Pokemon and trainer alike. Looking closely, Ash saw a lady who looked to be in her mid-30s with long red hair that flowed freely down her back. She had auburn eyes and possessed a beautiful heart-shaped face. She stood a good 6 feet 2 and wore a green training GI and had a black belt holding it. On the back of her GI was a picture of two fists colliding against each other. She also had bandages wrapped around her hands and wore no footwear. Next to her was a Primeape with a scar across its chest and a black bandana on its head. Mom, I'm back and I have company, Mia called out. The woman turned around and gave Mia a beautiful smile. Welcome back, dear, and hello to you, sir. My name is Lola and I am the current master of this dojo, she spoke in a polite tone as she bowed to her slightly. Gesturing to the fighting type beside her, she continued, this is Primeape. Returning the bow, Ash replied, hello, ma'am. I'm Ash Ketchum and I am a traveling trainer. This is my partner and friend Lucario. Lucario bowed his head slightly. I know it's sudden but I wish to challenge you to a battle. Well, I see no issues with that request, young man, but may I ask the reason? Lola asked. She could tell by looking in his eyes that there was another motive to his challenge of her, and with his arrival with her daughter then she could guess what it was. By the look you're giving me, I can tell you probably already know the reason, Ash responded to her. If I win, I want you to let your daughter travel with me and let her find her own dream as I train her. Mia looked at Ash and her mom with hope shining brightly in her eyes. Lola was about to decline that notion but paused after seeing the look in her daughter's eyes. She sighed and closed her eyes before she finally responded. Fine, but if I win, her eyes snapped open, then you must return to your home and never travel again while my daughter must train to become the master of this dojo. Mia was shocked that her mother would demand such a thing. She was about to tell Ash that it was not worth the risk but Ash beat her to it. If that's all then we have a deal, Ash spoke, surprising both Mia and her mother. I said I would help Mia and I meant it. Now let's get this battle on underway. This boy is something else, his eyes hold much power and wisdom for a child so young, Lola thought before calling out to her students. Everyone clear the field, I want you all to watch. Mia dear, would you please be the judge? Mia quickly nodded as she ran to the side of the field with Tyrogue beside her. Let's make this a 2 against 2, agreed young man. Lola asked Ash, who nodded his head in agreement. This will be a 2-on-2 battle with no time limit or substitutions. The battle will end when both Pokemon on either side are unable to continue. Trainers, release your Pokemon. Mia announced as loud as she could. Machoke, let's battle, Lola spoke out as she tossed out a Pokeball. Machoke burst out on the field as he flexed his bulging muscles. Primeape, lend me your aura and strength, Ash spoke out as he threw out his own Pokeball. The pig-monkey Pokemon flashed to the field with a mighty yell. It looked like your standard Primeape, except it was leagues calmer than what its species were known for. Battle begin. Mia yelled out. Machoke, use your cross chop, Lola commanded. Machoke crossed its glowing arms over its chest and took off towards the waiting Primip. Primip, dodge. Then use circle throw, Ash commanded in response. Once Machoke was close enough, Primip ducked quickly and grabbed Machoke's arms. Using Machoke's momentum, Primip leaned back and threw him backwards. Machoke flew a good 2 feet before slamming into the ground hard. It yelled out in pain before barrel rolling back onto its feet and turning to face its opponent. Machoke used Earthquake. Raising its foot, Machoke slammed it hard on the ground, causing it to shake violently. Primip dodged by jumping in the air and used Double Team, Ash commanded calmly. Primip jumped up, dodging the shaking ground. Primip glowed white before 7 Primipes appeared. Machoke looked at each one nervously, not knowing which one was real and which one was fake. Lola looked closely at her opponent or opponents with a critical eye as she thought carefully. He used Double Team to make up for the low mobility while trying to confuse us. This boy is smart, but I'm not stupid. He'll come to us and we will be ready then. Machoke use Focus Energy now. Machoke flexed his muscles as a golden aura outlined his body. Primip charge at Machoke and wait for my signal to strike, Ash told the pig monkey Pokemon. The fighting type charged at its opponent with high speeds, almost leaving behind a tan blur. What is he planning? Lola thought to herself. Machoke, brace yourself and be ready to counter. Machoke nodded its head in acknowledgement of its trainer's command. Flexing its muscles once more, Machoke put its arms forward slightly. When Primip was merely 3 feet from its target, Ash gave out his next command. Use Low Sweep and then follow it up with Brick Break. Not stopping in his charge, Primip leaned back and slid under Machoke's outstretched arms and delivered a sliding kick to the superpower Pokemon's legs. This caused Machoke to trip and land on his face. Before he had time to recover, Primip struck him once more with a glowing chop to his side and sending him sailing through the air. Machoke yelled out in pain but ignored it enough to twist its body and land directly on its feet, glaring at the pig monkey Pokemon. Machoke use Focus Blast, Lola commanded smoothly. Despite the situation, she held a calm face without as much as a worried tone or twitch. Putting the palm of his hands facing each other, Machoke concentrated his energy in between them as an orb of energy formed and grew quickly. Primip charge forward once more and wait for my signal, Ash commanded. Primip propelled forward as his trainer commanded. When it was halfway there, Machoke fired the Focus Blast and watched as it closed in on the charging fighting type. Primip, dodge using Double Team then charge in at full speed while using Giga Impact. Responding to the command in an instant, Primip glowed white before multiplying once more into 7 others. The Focus Blast caused one of the Primipes to vanish, signifying it as a fake. The orb continued flying until it hit the ground behind them, exploding harmlessly once it hit the ground. The remaining Primipes had a glowing purple aura swirl around them as they moved at a faster pace. Machoke crossed its arms in front of him, in an attempt to block 2 Primipes that descended upon him, only for them to phase through him since they were also fakes. The shock caused Machoke to hesitate, which was all the real Primip needed to ram into the superpower Pokemon's side, which caused a massive explosion to take place. The explosion caused not only the ground to shake but to also kick up a lot of smoke, covering the 2 battling fighting types. In a few moments, Primip jumped out of the smoke with a few purple sparks on its body, which caused it flinch slightly in pain due to the backlash of the powerful normal-type attack. The smoke cleared to reveal an unconscious Machoke. The students and Mia were shocked to see one of the dojo master's best Pokemon be defeated. Snapping out of her stupor, Mia made the announcement. Machoke is unable to battle, the winner is Primip. Trainers, please send out your next Pokemon. Lola returned her unconscious fighting Pokemon, before nodding her head forward. Understanding the order, her Primip stepped out on the field with a crazed look in its eyes. I hope you're ready because Primip is my best Pokemon. We have been together since I was a child and we grew strong together too. That's great ma'am, but the only thing is, I won't be battling it, Ash responded with a smirk. His answer confused everyone and the bandana-wearing Primip. What does he mean he won't be battling it? Was he giving up? Mia decided to voice the question. What do you mean by that, Ash? Smirking, Ash looked at her before responding. What I mean, Mia, is that we are not battling in this final battle. Raising his hand, Ash pointed a finger at her. You are. Everyone looked at Ash in shock. Even Lola was caught by surprise. The wind itself seemed to go silent at Ash's words. Mia's eyes widened to a point her eyes could have fallen out of their sockets. Look, Mia, I can't do everything for you, especially something this important to you, Ash began as he gazed into her auburn eyes. I want to help you live your dream, but that's just it, it's your dream. You have fight for it just as hard as you want to live it. Before I came along, you were already fighting hard for this. Well, it's time to show everyone here what you can do. It's time to show them how strong your dream is. Mia continued to look at Ash in shock and awe, thinking about his words. No matter how afraid or nervous she was, she couldn't deny the one simple fact, he was right. She can't have him fight her battles. She is a fighter, and she never runs from a challenge. She gazed into Ash's brown eyes, seeing him using them to convey what he wants her to understand, that he believes in her. Ash, step aside please. I want this battle, Mia spoke as her gaze went to Tyrogue, who showed the same determination in his eyes that she possessed. Ash nodded and returned his gaze to a surprised Lola. It was fun, ma'am, but it's time I retire so a more satisfying battle can take place. I apologize if I may have, in any way, insulted you with this. He bowed his head, as his primate followed suit. Lola smiled at his attitude, seeing that her daughter seemed to become more confident thanks to him. Maybe this battle wouldn't be so bad after all. It's okay and I'll allow this switch, but the terms of the match still stands. Ash smirked. I wouldn't have it any other way. Turning to Mia, she's all yours. I'll take over as referee. Mia and Ash quickly took over the position the other stood in. Ash on the sidelines along with his primate and Mia staring down her mother with Tyrogue ready for action. The battle between Mia and Dojo Master Lola shall now commence. Begin. Ash said as he waved his hand downward. Mia decided to get Tyrogue ready and called out her command quickly. Tyrogue, use Mach Punch. Tyrogue's right fist glowed a bright white color as he took off with blinding speed. Primate brought its arms up to defend itself just as the fist made contact. The hit caused Primate to slide backwards 2 feet but not much else. Tyrogue's speed and power level are impressive, Lola thought to herself. Primate, use Thunderbolt and don't let up. Primate was instantly covered in lightning before firing the yellow bolt at its younger opponent. Tyrogue jumped to his right, dodging the bolt and its explosion. Primate continued to fire and Tyrogue kept dodging. The continued assault kept Mia from commanding Tyrogue. Primate fired one more powerful bolt that Tyrogue jumped forward to dodge. Only to land directly in front of the pig monkey Pokemon. Use Poison Jab followed by Brick Break, commanded Lola. Moving before Mia had time to call out, Primape's purple, glowing fist collided into Tyrogue's stomach, causing the small Pokemon's feet to be lifted off the ground. Tyrogue let out a silent yell of pain. Not letting up though, Primate swung downward with a glowing left chop. The Brick Break smashed into Tyrogue's head, causing the scuffle Pokemon to slam back into the ground with a loud thud. Oh no, Tyrogue! Mia yelled out in worry. Watching those two attacks hit her friend with such force caused her confidence to drop. The battle just started and she was already being overwhelmed. Primate, use Brick Break once more, Lola commanded calmly. She figured it would best to just end this battle now. No Tyrogue, Mia began to yell out in a panic, dodge, please. Her plea reaching Tyrogue's ears caused his eyes to snap open as he quickly rolled out of the Brick Break's path. The small Pokemon continued to roll until he was directly behind a surprised Primate. Now get away from Primate. Tyrogue quickly jumped away from the pig monkey Pokemon, surprising everyone by the choice. Tyrogue had a clear shot at Primate but was instead ordered to retreat. What was Mia thinking? Primate, after Tyrogue with Focus Punch, Lola commanded. Lola easily figured out what was going on when Mia gave out that command to run, and if she was correct, then her next command would confirm it. Tyrogue, get away from there, dodge. Mia yelled out frantically. Tyrogue quickly began dodging Primape's constant swings, looking for a way to gain some distance. Watching the two Pokemon, Lola turned her eyes to her daughter. The command and the way she commanded more than confirmed her suspicions. Mia was scared. She was scared of her and the battle in general. She was scared of her Primip. She was scared of seeing her Tyrogue get so badly beaten. She was scared of failing Ash and losing this battle. Lola looked towards Ash to gauge his reaction to Mia's sudden fear, only to be surprised by Ash's smirking face. He had no sign of any form of fear or worry on his face. He was still confident in her, even with the way this battle was going. She put her focus back on Primip in time to see a focus punch finally hit Tyrogue, causing him to soar through the air. Mia's eyes were teary as Tyrogue slammed into the ground in front of her. She couldn't believe it. She let Tyrogue get so badly hurt. She couldn't do this. She couldn't let her friend get hurt anymore. She opened her mouth to forfeit the match when she heard Tyrogue yell out to her. I know what you're planning to do, Mia, Tyrogue yelled out, in hopes that his trainer will understand. Don't you dare think about giving up. This is our dream on the line. You can do this, Mia, I know you can. Mia looked at the yelling Tyrogue in surprise. She didn't understand his words, unlike the smirking Ash, but she understood what he wanted to say through their bond. She could see it clearly in the fire in his eyes. How could she think about giving up with all the hard work she put into this on the line? All those hard hours of training and meditation down the drain because she got cold feet, because she decided to just quit. She was Mia C's a soon-to-be fighting-type master. Thank you, Tyrogue, she thought warmly. You're right, Tyrogue. I was acting like a coward and because of that, you suffered. Please, if you would, give me one more chance. I want to battle with you like I should have been and I promise to lead us to victory. What do you say? Tyrogue looked her in the eye before smirking and nodding at his trainer. This caused Mia to return the smirk and pumped her fist in the air before pointing it at Primip. Let's do this, Tyrogue, use Mach Punch. Like before, Tyrogue ran forward with a white, glowing fist. Primip dodged to the left but Tyrogue spun on his right heel and slammed the back of his glowing fist into the surprised Primip. The attack caused Primip to sail backwards. The pig monkey righted himself and landed on his feet. Lola nodded her head at her strongest Pokemon, go and use Poison Jab. Mia decided to counter the attack head-on. Counter with your Mach Punch. Primip and Tyrogue took off towards one another, one with white fists and the other purple. Once they were 2 feet apart, they swung their respective fists forward with all their might. Once they collided, they pulled back their other fist and swung forward, resulting in another powerful collision. Again and again the two fighting types let their fists collide, trying to gain a foothold over their opponent. Ash smiled at the battle before him. This is what he was looking for. Not the battle specifically, but the bond between trainer and Pokemon that he saw with Mia and Tyrogue. He agreed to all of this because he felt their bond, and knew Mia was exactly who he was looking for. When he saw the two stare into the other's eyes, he felt their bond get even stronger. This what he has been searching for, what he wanted in his new elites. Back to the battle, Tyrogue ducked just in time as the poison jab flew over his head. Now Tyrogue, use low sweep. Kicking his leg out, Tyrogue knocked Primip on his back by knocking his legs out from under him. Deciding to gain some distance, Tyrogue used the opportunity to jump back from the dazed Primip. Tyrogue, use bulk up, Mia commanded. Tyrogue concentrated his power, causing his muscles to grow and harden. Primip got up as he shook the dizziness from his head, and glared at the scuffle Pokemon. Use Focus Punch, Lola commanded. The fighting type charged towards the small pink Pokemon with his two glowing fists. Primip was quickly upon its opponent, swinging his left fist, but Tyrogue ducked under it just in time. Primip responded to the dodge with an uppercut using its right arm, only for Tyrogue to roll away from it. Primip continued to swing its fists, only for Tyrogue to keep dodging the attacks. Fire off a thunderbolt, Lola called out. Primip swung with one more punch only to miss due Tyrogue jumping away. Following the command of its trainer, Primip fired a bolt at the recovering Tyrogue, earning the pig monkey a direct hit. Tyrogue grunted in pain as one of his eyes shut in pain. He kept the other one pinned on his opponent. He refused to give in, not when his best friend and partner was counting on him. With a mighty yell, Tyrogue broke out from the thunderbolt, only to flinch from the electricity sparking around his body. Tyrogue was caught in a paralysis effect. This revelation only caused a smirk to appear on Mia's face. Tyrogue, get in close with Mach Punch, Mia called out. Tyrogue sprung forward at a blurring pace. Primip, counter him with focus punch, Lola said. The elder fighting type took off towards the baby evolution with raised glowing fists. Due to Mach punch being faster, Tyrogue struck first, catching Primip on the side of his face. The attack knocked Primip off its feet, unlike before when all it did was skid on the ground slightly. Mia saw her chance to strike while Primip was vulnerable. Quickly Tyrogue, facade. The Scuffle Pokémon was then encased in a golden aura that took in the paralysis slightly and grew even stronger. Tyrogue took off in a feverish pace towards Primip, who just landed on the ground. Stop him with poison jab, Lola called out. Primip struck forward with his fist encased in purple once more, only for Tyrogue to dodge just in time by moving to the left. Tyrogue rammed his body into the exposed left side of the surprised Primip. The older Pokémon yelled out in pain before gaining its bearings enough to ram its purple fist into Tyrogue, sending him flying away. Primip then charged forward at full speed, intending to end this battle. Tyrogue flipped, landed on his feet, and charged toward his opponent with white a fist as he heard Mia yell out focus punch. When they were mere inches from the other, they swung their attacks forward with all the might they could pull out from their exhausted reserves. The force of the two powerful fists colliding caused the ground to rumble a bit as they tried to overpower their opponent. They stayed in a stalemate for a few more seconds, no one even daring to breathe as the two Pokémon poured more than they ever knew they possessed to win this match. Even amongst the strain, the two looked at each other and smirked. You have definitely grown well, kid, Primip said to the smaller Pokémon in a strained voice. Yeah, I know, and it's thanks to that girl, my friend Mia, Tyrogue responded in an equally strained tone. I can see that, but I'm afraid I won't lose this one to you, child, Primip said. I will win this match. With those words, he put everything he had into his fist as it slowly began to push Tyrogue back. No. I won't lose here. I made a promise to Mia to help her live her dream one day, Tyrogue spoke as his voice got more solid instead of the rigid breathing he had moments ago. I intend to keep that promise. I won't lose. Just like Primip, Tyrogue poured everything he had left into his fist, causing him to stop sliding as once again they were once again in a stalemate. The stalemate lasted for a few more seconds before an explosion took place, engulfing both of them. The surrounding students watched the smoke intensely since they had no clue who could win this match. They were not expecting Mia to do this well. Mia narrowed her eyes, trying to see through the thick smoke as best as she could. Lola and Ash just stood calmly while looking at the clearing smoke. After 8 painstakingly long seconds, the smoke cleared enough for a standing figure to be seen over another figure that lay on the ground. When the smoke finally dissipated, everyone, except a smiling Lola and Ash, let out a surprised gasp. Walking forward, Ash made the announcement loud and clear. Primip is unable to battle. Victory goes to Tyrogue and Mia. For a moment Mia stood there in shock as Ash's announcement finally began to sink in. I did it. I actually did it. We beat Mom. Mia started off softly before yelling out in joy. Tyrogue yelled out along with its trainer as he ran towards Mia and jumped into her arms. We did it, buddy. We really, truly did it. Before any more words could be spoken, Tyrogue glowed a bright blue color as he grew in size. When the light died down, Tyrogue no longer stood there. In his place, something else stood proudly. Tyrogue had evolved into a Hitmontop. This only caused Mia to cry tears of joy as she celebrated not only her victory, but also her friend's evolution. As she celebrated, Lola returned Primip to his Pokeball and walked over to a still smiling Ash. You knew she was more than enough skill to best me. That's why you let her better my strongest, isn't it? Ash chuckled. I saw the fire she held along with Tyrogue and also the powerful bond the two shared. She needed confidence, and facing your Primip was the only way for her to let her potential show. A sparring or battle wasn't what she needed. No. She needed to reach her breaking point both mentally and emotionally. I must say she passed with flying colors. There is an old saying I heard. The one thing that holds us back from our true potential is ourselves. Lola nodded at his words and couldn't help but see just how accurate his words were. Well, a deal's a deal, Lola smiled warmly. My daughter is free to do as she wishes, but please, promise me you will look after her. She can be a bit of a hothead. She gets it from me, I guess. Ash nodded his head to her as he chuckled slightly. I'll make her the best fighting specialist the world has ever seen. Flashback end. From there, Ash told me about him being the champion of Kalos and asked me if I would like to join his new Elite Four. I accepted his offer and well, the rest is history, Mia finished. Mike was shocked. He knew Ash was a good guy, but to do all that for someone he didn't even know. It just shows how special Ash really is. It would seem Ash really had your back. That's true, Mia said with a bright smile. To me, I owe Ash everything. I will follow Ash to the end, even if it costs me my life. Mike was slightly surprised by Mia's words. To have such devotion, admiration, and loyalty towards someone was really something to see. Shaking his head from his thoughts, he gave Mia a smile as he gestured towards the trainers cleaning the Pokemon. What do you say we go give them a hand? Mia nodded her head as both trainers and the meditating Hitmontop stood and made their way towards the lake. In an unknown temple. Entering an unknown, but ancient-looking temple, a figure in a black cloak made his way inside. Moving his hand up, the cloaked individual revealed his arm. On his hand was a black fingerless glove that was red on the edges by the fingers. On his wrist was a long, electronic band with a big rectangular screen. On the screen, it showed 5 bars that increased and decreased on the screen as he moved his arm across the different pathways the huge room provided. When he turned to a pathway that was at the farthest left corner, the bars shot across the screen as the screen began to make a rapid beeping noise. The man looked up from the screen and began making his way towards that entrance, completely ignoring the others. He made his way inside as his feet echoed with each footstep, creating a very ominous feeling. Behind where the man once stood, the path leading to the temple was littered with unconscious Pokemon. Pokemon of all kinds, Gloom, Golem, Goldbat, Absol and even Weavile all lay unmoving on the floor as the surrounding trees were either uprooted or slightly on fire. The ground itself was upturned or scorched, as if an explosion took place that annihilated the surrounding earth. The cloaked figure walked further down the hall until he came upon a massive room. The room itself seemed to be held up by 3 different colored pillars that were far from each other in a triangular formation. One pillar was brown like rock, one was silver like steel, and the other blue like ice. In the middle of the room was a huge statue of a Regigigas. The statue sat on the floor as it stared ahead as it released a calming, kind feeling. It's time to awaken. Go Regirock, Registeel, Regice, the man called out as he tossed 3 Pokeballs into the air. The Regi Pokemon popped into the room as they each faced the stone statue. Raising his right hand, a black aura roared to life as it quickly encompassed his entire hand in a stream-like fashion. He watched as his black energy shot towards the statue and began to completely cover it. When the black aura seeped into the statue didn't look or feel peaceful, nor did it feel protective. The statue seemed to look agitated, like it was forced to be here. Slowly, the statue's calming aura began to boil and feel more enraged. The man nodded his head to his 3 Regis as they took place in front the pillars that matched their color scheme. Regirock stood in front of the brown pillar, Regice stood in front of the blue pillar and Registeel was in front of the silver pillar. They each roared out as the pillars glowed brightly along with the statue. The light began to fill the room, slightly blinding the Regi trio and their trainer. When the light finally dimmed down, they all gazed upon the center once more. Where the statue once stood was now a fully awake Regigigas. The legendary Regi eluded a dark, menacing aura that caused the other Regis to take a step back in fear. The man merely stared down the colossal Pokemon, without averting his gaze in the slightest. After what felt like an eternity, Regigigas bowed down on one knee in front of the man. In response, the man wordlessly threw a Pokeball and watched as it beeped, signifying his capture. Raising his arm, he tapped the electronic band and a beeping noise was heard. Regigigas successfully captured and under our command. What's your progress? The legendary bird Ho-Oh has been spotted over the Kanto region. The creator of the sea, Kyogre, is in the waters of the Johto region. Good. Keep eyes on Ho-Oh. We will commence capture upon my arrival. As for Kyogre, keep on its trail as well until dust arrives, the man said. His reply was a quick, yes sir, before the connection was cut. He took out his Pokeballs and returned the 3 Regis. Everything is coming together perfectly and soon the whole world will begin to shake, Looking to the sky, a dark smirk made its way onto his face. Be prepared, Arceus, you and all your children will fall. He made his way out of the temple, never once glancing back. Ash awoke with a startle, his breathing heavy from the shock. Ash just woke up from another nightmare, though this one was different than the rest of them. In this one, no town was in danger. In fact, he didn't see another person. He saw only himself in a bright, white room. No sky, no Pokemon, nothing. He called out, hoping to get a response, but got no such results. He was about to take a step forward to explore, but he was stopped from a powerful aura signature roaring to life behind him. The aura was enough to disorientate him for a moment. Quickly turning around to face the signature, Ash's eyes widened at what he saw before him. It was pure aura, but this one was very different from what he's seen before. Instead of the warm, soothing, and calming feel that aura naturally gave off, this one was hateful, cold, and chaotic. It was so cold that Ash felt a shiver go up his spine. The aura, which was pitched black in color, moved around as it floated in the air in front of him. Ash stared at it warily, unsure of what he should do. What surprised him even more was that this aura actually felt familiar to him, like he had encountered it before. Ash took a step back as the aura moved closer to him suddenly, getting into a defensive stance. What are you? Ash yelled. The aura just floated there, not reacting. Do something, damn it. Suddenly, the black aura slammed into the ground, forming a black puddle before it rose slowly. The aura began to take shape, as the first things to form were a pair of feet and legs. It was then followed by a torso that grew 2 arms and hands. A head then took form with hair flowing in a windless void. 2 closed slits formed on its pure black face that snapped open. The eyes were shown to be completely red, with the exception being the black, slit pupils. Ash's eyes widened once more at what he was looking at. The black aura, the power filled with so much hate and rage, took the form of Ash himself. Ash shook himself from his memory of the incident. He had to talk to Arceus about this when he got the chance. Looking around, he found everyone was still asleep. Looking at the sun, he guessed that it was around 8 in the morning. Ash made his way to the lake and knelt in front of it. I'll just go for a walk around town, Ash thought as he splashed water on his face. Feeling 2 aura signatures coming up behind him, Ash addressed them. Would you two like to join me for a walk? Of course, Master, Lucario responded soothingly. Pikachu, who was sitting on Lucario's shoulder, nodded his head in agreement. Let us get going then. It's a rest period for all trainers, so there are no battles going on today, Ash said towards his 2 Pokémon. Before Ash could walk away though, a small cry from the water caught his attention. The cry came from his melodic who, from looking into her eyes, knew that she wanted to join them. Ash nodded his head once more as he returned her into her Pokeball. Quickly grabbing his cap and jacket, not as Satoshi mind you, Ash made his way into town with Pikachu and Lucario by his side and Melodic in tow. After a few moments, they entered the town as Ash quickly took notice of how calm it was. He figures that most people must still be resting due to it still being so early in the morning. At least I won't be swarmed by people asking for my autograph, Ash chuckled mentally. After walking around town for a while longer, his growling stomach alerted him that he should probably get something to eat. Walking his way to a random restaurant, a mop of blonde hair from the corner of his eye caught his attention. Turning towards the direction, he saw an ice cream parlor, but it wasn't the parlor that caught his attention, the owner of the long blonde hair did. It was a woman who possessed an air of power and mystery to her. It was Cynthia Sharona. Ash smiled at the sight of the gorgeous Sinnoh champion. Cynthia, hey Cynthia. Ash yelled out as he ran over to her with his 2 Pokémon right behind him. Looking towards the voice, Cynthia smiled widely, with a tint of pink dusting her cheeks. Ash, good morning, she greeted happily. Ash gave Cynthia a warm hug in greeting, which only caused the blush to darken as she returned the hug before he stepped back and gave her a once-over. He had to admit that Cynthia's place as one of the most beautiful trainers today was well earned. From her perfect hourglass figure to her slightly pale skin that only seemed to enhance her beauty to even further heights. Knocking himself away from those thoughts, Ash continued. How are you feeling this morning, Cynthia? Looking into her eyes, Ash had to use all of his control to not to lose himself into those elegant, gray eyes. I am doing well, Ash, just out for a little stroll, she replied before an idea popped into her head. Her blush from earlier returned as she spoke her next words, would you like to join me? Please say yes. Ash smiled at her offer, completely missing her blush. I would love to join you, Cynthia. What about you guys? Ash asked his two awaiting Pokemon. Pikachu nodded his head while jumping onto Ash's left shoulder. Lucario shook his head, opting to go back to his Pokeball for now. As Ash returned Lucario, Cynthia had a thought go through her mind. That Lucario, that's the same one I saw around Satoshi before the tournament began. She knew it was the same, there are no other Lucarios with that specific pigmentation, nor did she know of one that gave off the same power this one was putting off. But why does he have it? Did they trade or something? Unaware of his fellow champion's thoughts, Ash jerked his head to the side. Let's go, Cynthia. She nodded and started walking beside Ash, opting to think on it later. As the two champions walked, they talked non-stop about themselves. As they spoke, they were pleasantly surprised with how open they were to each other. No barrier to get in their way, they both had very relieved feeling towards this. For Cynthia, she felt she had to always be perfect at everything. She had to always be the absolute best or she would quickly fall behind. She had few people she could call close friends, friends that she could indulge herself with and not be held down. Yes, she had the other champions as well as her gym leaders and her elites as well, but they barely spent any time together. The chances they did get together were mostly to battle, not just to talk or hang out. With Ash, it felt so different. The times she did talk with the others, she felt she had to almost always be reserved and elegant. She didn't have to do that with Ash, though. She didn't need to be a stranger and hide behind a mask. She didn't need to be perfect, she could just be herself. A smart, strong-willed and self-admitted occasional childish woman. For Ash, it felt liberating to be able to talk to someone like this. To be able to drop all his guards, to not feel like he had to handle all the burdens of the world. He didn't feel that crushing weight that seemed to follow him from the start of his journey. He felt he could actually breathe calmly again, to be able to soar high again instead of feeling so grounded. There was no training to stop threats, no aura practice weighing on his mind, he felt like the kid he was before his journey. If Ash had to admit it, he really enjoyed this warm feeling in his chest as he spoke to the Sinnoh champion with a smile on his face. As they walked, they went into a small restaurant and a wonderful meal with each other. After a while of rest, they made their way around town for a bit longer when they stopped by a clothing store. Shrugging, they decided to explore and see what they had to offer. As they entered the clothing store, named Boutique Around the World, neither noticed that they were being trailed by several different sized shadows. Ash and Cynthia made their way around the shop that held clothing styles from the many different regions. They picked out some outfits and modeled some of them for each other, hoping to get a rise out of each other. One of the outfits that Cynthia modeled was a yellow two-piece bikini. It had white stripes in the shape of lightning bolts going diagonal. It also showed off a generous amount of cleavage. It was only made worse when Cynthia posed, putting her hands on her knees and leaning forward slightly. This action, along with her curvaceous body, caused Ash's face to go a deep red that would make a Corphish jealous and become a stammering mess as he had trouble to form coherent words. This resulted in her giggling at her success, as her pride as a woman rose, and secretly planned to return to the shop to buy the outfit. Ash, not one to be outdone, got his revenge as he modeled his own outfit. He wore red sneakers with white bottoms, along with a pair of black slacks that hugged his legs, enough to show the muscles that they held. He also a dark blue jacket that was left open and a white muscle shirt that left nothing to the imagination as it showed off his six-pack perfectly. He wore a blue fedora that had yellow feathers sticking out on the left side. He also posed for the Sinnoh champion by having his arms crossed over his chest and staring intently at her. The crossed arms caused his muscles to bulge slightly, giving Cynthia a much better view. This action caused Cynthia's mind to go into overdrive as it tried its best to burn the image into her head. It also led to Cynthia's face turning such a dark red that it would cause a Charmeleon to weep and forfeit its color. After a few moments of looking, they decided to leave the store, but were suddenly ambushed by the shadows from earlier that seemed to multiply. Flashes of light continued to blind them. Round, Steel objects were shoved into their blinded faces. The shadows were so loud and all of them were talking. You guessed it. The champions have been ambushed by a crowd of reporters. Are you two dating? What kind of training do you do? Do you guys train together? What are your thoughts on the tournament so far? Ash, where did you vanish to for so long? When did you two start your relationship? These were among the few questions that they could understand due to them all talking at once. Ash and Cynthia took a step back in an attempt to get back in the shop and escape the crowd, only to see more reporters blocking their path. Not seeing any other route, Ash looked towards Pikachu on his shoulder, who nodded his head in understanding of his trainer's wordless command. Pikachu jumped from his shoulder and fired a thunderbolt above the heads of the rowdy reporters. This got the desired effect of the reporters flinching at the attack and causing them to duck away from the attack in shock. Using this distraction to his advantage, Ash quickly turned to Cynthia and swept her off her feet and held her in a bridal carry. Channeling aura to his legs, Ash jumped backward to the wall of the building, and with a mighty push, Ash jumped off and above the heads of the reporters. Once he had landed, Ash took off as fast as he could. Recovering from their shock, the reporters quickly looked around to try to find the champions, only to see a small speck in the distance running off before completely vanishing from their sights. Cynthia continued to hold on tight as she could to her raven-haired crush. She was so surprised when Ash lifted her off the ground, she had to suppress the urge to let out a loud yelp that threatened to leave her lips. When she looked, she couldn't believe how fast they were moving. Everything was a blur. Before she knew it, they went from a crowd of chattering reporters, to a calm and quiet street. Ash made a quick turn, before stopping in front of a building which ended up being their hotel. Looking down to the blonde in his arms, Ash's face gained a warm smile and a small blush at how tightly Cynthia was holding onto him. He even felt her assets pushed tightly onto his chest. They sure are big, Ash thought before shaking those thoughts away. Are you okay, Cynthia? Ash asked the elder blonde woman. Cynthia nodded her head as Ash let her down. I'm glad, at least we were able to get away from those reporters. Cynthia looked at Ash before a small giggle left her lips, followed by Ash laughing along with her. Yes, and I have you to thank for that, Ash. Ash smirked at her before a certain aura signature caught his attention. Discreetly looking for it, Ash saw a silhouette on top of a nearby building looking at them. Cynthia's voice snapped Ash's attention back onto her. Well, Ash. It's been real fun, but I have to make my leave as I need to speak to my grandfather, she said, slightly disappointed that she couldn't stay with him longer. This has been the most fun she's had in a while, not including Pokemon battles, of course. Ash nodded his head to the blonde while a warm smile made its way on his face. It's quite alright, Cynthia, I actually have to get going myself. I'll speak to you later, maybe we can do this again sometime. He quickly gave Cynthia a hug before taking off towards the forest, the silhouette vanishing. Cynthia stood there for a while longer as Ash began to vanish from her sight. She looked around to see no one was there, and could no longer contain herself. She squealed in delight and joy. Ash hugged me. We got to be with each other, without someone else getting in the way. Whether he knows it or not, I got a date from Ash. With that thought in mind, she made her way back into the hotel, her happiness practically flowing off her body. Ash ran down the street, feeling that aura signature from earlier still following him. As he made his way into the forest, a voice rang through his head. Make your way towards the center, away from the others, the voice said. Ash nodded as he changed his course slightly and making his way to where he was told. Ash stopped in a clearing that held more sand than actual grass with a few boulders laced throughout the field. A small lake was nearby, flowing at a calming pace. Taking a Pokeball off his belt, Ash tossed it into the air. Lucario, come on out. The silver-furred aura Pokemon appeared in a flash as he stretched slightly. He didn't enjoy being in the Pokeball much, always made him feel stiff. He nodded to his trainer and friend who returned the nod. Pikachu's ears twitched as he turned left, along with Ash. So you have a report for me, Mewtwo, Ash spoke out as the genetic Pokemon appeared into the field in a blue ball of light. I did a sweep of the area as you have asked of me, Ash, Mewtwo said. Ash nodded and ushered him to continue. My analysis, we have a problem. A big problem.